Guys fans, Robin here, back in front of the camera today to talk to you about some great Cubicle 7 products which have just arrived on the market. They've been around in PDF form for a while, or some of them have, but it's a very, very exciting time to be a Cubicle 7 fan or a Warhammer roleplay fan. Not only have they brought out the Soulbound PDF, which is the Age of Sigmar role-playing game that's available as PDF, and we've been covering a little bit of that on our channel, so do find that elsewhere. There's a playlist of all our Soulbound stuff, you can go and look at that. But they've also been just quietly getting on with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which those who regularly follow the channel know that's my kind of first love, if you like. That's why I love the old world so much, and why I really played Warhammer a lot as a teenager, and loved playing Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay as a teenager. And they've just started to bring out again the Enemy Within campaign. Enemy in Shadows has arrived, and it's been out in PDF form, and it's now available in beautiful hardback, and they're bringing out each volume of the Enemy Within campaign as a hardback adventure and then a companion guide, and I have got them both and they are lovely. I will do some coverage on that in the near future. But today I want to talk about something else they've produced, another physical thing, which is the Games Master's screen. Games Master screen. I have unpacked it. Comes all cellophaned up. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. The screen itself. One of these people who never really used GM screens. I mean, I just occasionally put books up and things, but it's pretty handy. It's got all sorts. I mean, the rule set for WFRP is pretty dense, and possibly not for the faint of heart. But there's some great tables and things here to help you get through the role playing. So they have things like Fate, Resilience, Resolve, Assistance. You've got the Master Skills list. A little chart of common old world names over here in case you need to throw one out there for your NPCs quickly, and hopefully you don't get a double entendre like I normally do. There's some quirks here as well to sort of add flavour to your NPCs. Got psychology tables, and then there's all the weapons and shields and how much they cost and all that kind of stuff here and things, and it's pretty cool, and this amazing artwork. I do love the artwork they've got. Cubicle 7 have really gone out of their way to capture the essence of the old world, that kind of grim and perilous, as it was called, world. I mean, I particularly never found it that grimdark, but maybe it's because I was young, I didn't quite know what grimdark was. And it really is, but it is kind of grimy, and that really comes out in this lovely artwork. I love this here. I was saying to Pete about it the other night, there's a guy here just standing on a rooftop gable yelling at the gods or something like that, but there's some cool stuff. I mean, there's pretty cool, and then there's all these guys sort of fighting on there. I just love the artwork. It's really great. Love this here. This kind of reminds me of down the Rawk and then going up and down the river and the trading. Just really nice. There's a good solid product, great GM screen if you need one. I mean, I think every game does GM screens now, and you can get a proliferation of these things. And it's not an essential thing if you've got a screen. Obviously, the tables are handy. What I really like is this little book that comes with it. Now, this kind of reminded me a little bit of. Do you remember back in the day? You know, we're talking a long time ago now. Games Workshop did a character pack, and it came with 50 sheets for character sheets, and you got a little thin book, and I love that little thin book, and I think it's been incorporated in other publications, and it had things like eye colour and weight and height and various other things. And this is kind of similar, and it's a bit more GM focused rather than player focused, or a lot more GM focused. What I really loved about this, in the first couple of pages, I think this just makes the whole thing worth buying alone, and probably worth reading for anybody who's interested in the old world, or Warhammer in particular. I know the border runs are a little bit different, but well, I mean, they're a lot different, but I still think it kind of applies here. So chapter 1 in this is what makes Warhammer, and it talks about the GM's goals. Your goals are to make the old world come to life, create gripping and action-packed scenarios, build a story together, understand the characters, and a little preamble on what those things are. And then the GM's principles are: reveal the old world, incorporate the characters, embody uncaring gods, evil is rampant but good is rare, focus on the characters, everyone has a history, lead the players to their story, be a friend and an enemy, always advance the story, embrace conflict and be truthful to the players. And then there's a little kind of description of what that entails. I'm not going to read them all out because I'll be here all day, but I love this one. Embody uncaring gods. Look through the eyes of uncaring gods. Nothing is sacred in the old world. when you look at it from on high. Nothing is beyond being killed, burned, maimed or crushed. Consider always how things can get worse and put those threats against all of your creations. No MP is safe, no boon given to a character is permanent. See now, that was used to often fail of that, mainly because people get very upset if you take their magic items away or whatever that they've got away. Further, considering the malevolence of the ruinous powers, always look for the failings in every character that crosses your path. How can you tempt them? How can you corrupt them? How can you raise them up only to bring them low again? Pull, no, punches. And that's a pretty brutal dynamic, I think, for a GM, but essential if you're going to capture the old world. Again, I'm too nice, really. I'm a nice GM. Reveal the old world isn't like most fantasy lands. It's full of juxtapositions and conflicts, and middle class rising up from the oppressed presence under the boot of tyrannical nobility, the conflicts of doctrine between preaching doom-laden churches and myriad cults, the screaming of babies with empty stomachs drowned out by the crashing of plate armour and the beat of drums as the imperial army marches by. I really love that. It really sets the scene. And then what else we got here? Everyone has a history. Name them. Give everyone a home and a heart. The old world is made of regular people, not caricatures. Not sure about that. Everyone has a name, a history, a home and a heart. Though evil does truly exist in the old world, it is almost always a tool to follow one's ambitions and dreams. No one commits evil for no reason, not even the monsters of the deepest, darkest places. And that's kind of an important and kind of modern role-playing aspect, I suppose. It was D&D, but we played a game the other day which was a rewrite of an old adventure, and it just didn't ring true anymore, because it was just like go into a dungeon and there's a troll in there and he attacks you, and you go to the next one and there's another monster, and it had no real reason to be there. There was supposed to be some old guy's house, I think it was, or secret base, and he just filled it full of traps and monsters. It's kind of, well, how does that work? So this kind of getting away from that, isn't it? And that's what we want these days. We want everybody to have a reason for doing whatever it is they're doing. So if you are trapped in a room for some reason, there needs to be a reason for why that thing is there and why it wants to eat you. Which I really like. What else we got? There was one I did want to read. I've lost it. Oh, here it is. Evil is rampant. Good is rare. Reward evil, punish the good. Crime pays. Chaos runs rampant, not through the lack of heroes, but through the abundance of villains. The easy way out is almost unclean. The right thing to do comes without reward, without celebration, and often with a knife in one's back. Look always to offer easier solutions through compromised means, and stress that the world is unkind to optimists. Again, doesn't play easily on my optimistic streak, on my optimistic side, but that will be a great way to play Warhammer, and does stretch into the whole of Games Workshop's ethos, I suppose. So be a friend, be an enemy, give with one hand, take with the other. Warhammer is about getting what you want, or rather it's about getting what you want at a horrendous cost. Always advance a story, so things are happening. The idea is, and this is quite hard to do, I think, but if you've got the time on your hands to do it, is that the story is going on everywhere, regardless of what your characters are doing. So they're doing one small bit, but elsewhere things are moving on, and that's quite hard to keep track of what else might be happening elsewhere, but quite an important part of creating a really good immersive setting. Be truthful to the players. Speak truth to the players, speak lies to characters. Never lie to your players, ever. But never tell your characters the whole truth. This means being frank with your players. Tell them right at the start that not everything they're told will be true. Well, their characters will be told. But when your players ask a question, when they use their skills to interrogate a scene, be truthful with the information they gain. If they succeed at their perception test, tell them truthfully what they find. If they fail their intuition test, tell them what they truthfully believe. And then the next section is the themes of Warhammer. So WFRP focuses on 5 themes. The conflicts created by these 5 themes can fuel almost any adventure, and ultimately these themes coalesce into the main looming peril of the setting of the end times. Now this is Warhammer, not Warhammer 40,000, so you haven't got to worry about female space marines being a source of conflict, and this is also Cubicle 7, not Games Workshop, so you haven't got to go on and on and on about how much the miniatures cost or how much they're gouging you for prices. That is not one of the main themes of Warhammer, despite what you might be led to believe. So the 5 themes are class struggle, ideology, modernisation, factionalism and religion. So we've got rich versus poor, order versus chaos, urban versus rural, us versus them, and cult versus cult. So the class struggle underpins a lot of the empire, rich versus poor. WFRP is focused on the everyday lives turned grim of imperial citizens. It is one that is seen everywhere, this battle. So the poor underclasses are constantly pushed around by the rich upper class. The burgeoning middle class is driving a wedge between the two and making both, in many ways, redundant. Wealth, once clutched in the hand of the elite, is hoarded by those who were born peasants or whose parents worked the field in serfdom. This struggle brings revolutionaries, agitators, criminals and tyrants to the centre of the stage and helps feed into the conflicts presented in all four other major themes. So, for example, as an example here, Herr Dorman is a merchant in the very short-term loan business. Dorman is looking for a few steady hands to collect his overdue accounts, occasionally with some violent interest. Collectors working for Dorman soon find themselves collecting purses of silver from folk living in muddy hovels, while conversely stripping destitute nobles of their still valuable if faded garments. So again, you kind of got this, the cracks, working between the cracks of the class struggle, I suppose. There's various other examples here, which I'm not going to read them all out. Ideology is probably the main theme of Warhammer, it says, and I would agree with that. It exists as a backdrop of the Empire. Outside the walls of an untamed wilderness filled with monsters and hordes of chaos, while inside them is the order of civilization. At least that's how the powers of be want it to seem. Everything exists in a liminal space between the two. Never overly keen on the word, the use of the word liminal, but liminal is in here. Between the two, order versus chaos. Mutants and beastmen exist as clear evidence that it's not black and white. Wizards represent chaos turned order. The barbarism of witch hunters, nominally agents of order, is nothing short of chaotic. The ever-present chaos cultists, the dreaded enemy within, are everywhere in the Empire. This struggle is what eventually breaks the old world in half and leads to the end times. And that's a really interesting point about this. When we were playing Warhammer a long time ago, this old world was going to carry on forever. But now, I suppose, through Games Workshop's evolution of their products, we now know that we're working in a liminal space between the present and some sort of catastrophic ending, which perhaps makes prophecy and things that quite often form part of the games, the end of the universe or the end of the world, a bit more real, and you've definitely got that kind of, well, time is running out, and what does that, could mean your PCs end up being nihilists. Hope that doesn't happen. But ultimately, what is the point of all of this? Because the old world will be destroyed. Maybe you're creating your own alternate reality of the old world where it goes on and on and on and doesn't come apart at the seams and everything die. So I really like this one as an example of the ideology. Characters are hired by faithful Shalians to act as guards for the compassionate Dr. Carster Velsinger, a gifted physician who administers to the poor for a pittance, but is in danger of being overrun by her many frantic would-be patients and eliminated by agents of other, less pathetic doctors who would see her removed. The real question, though, is what will the characters do when they discover she's a mutant? So that's kind of like that whole dichotomy going on of order versus chaos. I mean, again, I was only young, but you spoke very black and white. Chaos was bad, and mutants were bad. Well, that was a little bit less so. But the idea that actually people just are living with these things that happen to them for no fault of their own, and you know how the players interact with that is quite important. And a real important backdrop in maintaining that dichotomy in Warhammer Adventures. Modernisation, the Empire is in a state of industrialisation and innovation, so it's kind of coming through. You've got your gunpowder technology and all that kind of stuff coming through in the towns, creating that urban versus rural problem. And you know, do farmers want to have massive threshing machines that can dig up their crops and all that kind of stuff? You've got that whole kind of peasants' revolt stuff going on within the game, which is in itself quite interesting. Factionalism, and then you've got the classic ones: elves versus dwarves, Empire versus Bretonia. You've always had that factionalism in Warhammer, the sort of Middenheim and Outdorf, and the followers of Sigmar, followers of Ulrich, all that kind of stuff going on in the games, and that's carried on forward here. Often this theme is set against a backdrop of ridiculousness and farce. The conflicts are there, but if everyone just set aside the differences, things would go much smoother. Almost sounds like real life. Religion, another super important aspect of the old world. It's to love putting religious, kind of throwing religion against one another. Cults of the Empire religions are beset on all sides, so they're fighting chaos, monsters, magic, heresy, and each other. Cult versus cult, whether it's Ulrichans versus Sigmarites, or versus Tarlites, or Varenas versus Ryans, or any other combination. The cults of the Empire are each other's throat. Cults are as political as any other group, and often more so than most. This leads to constant fighting, schisms, purges, synods, and all falling out among the faithful. Again, not unlike real life. For example, here we've got the poor folk of Geekburg are desperate for a plague are desperate for a plague. They're not desperate for a plague. Are desperate for a plague has afflicted them all, but the medicine needed to cure it is more costly than most can afford. A priest of Ranald has a solution. So Ranald is the god of thieves. Used the silver coins interred on the eyes of the dead to save the living, but the priests of Moor have forbidden it. Are the characters up for some noble grave robbing? And immediately you can see the massive dichotomy there of what we're doing. There is actually a whole section devoted to the end times here. Agitators, seers and the insane have been declaring the end of the world for many centuries without seeming effect, but the recent auguries are the most accurate yet. It seems the long-dreaded end times may be at hand. What does it mean to adventure in a world seemingly headed for inevitable destruction? Are the characters' actions still important, or is the very notion of heroics meaningless in the face of a looming apocalypse? I've kind of preempted myself here by talking about that a little bit already, probably because I read this through earlier and then forgot it was in here. Absolutely, I think it's really interesting because questions such as these are fundamental to the Warhammer experience, and one of the reasons why the focus of WFRP is on everyday people. We tell stories about a group of largely ordinary folks marked out something extraordinary and then get to see what happens. Will they learn of the pending doom? Will they stand against it? Will they be brought low and succumb to their baser instincts? Will they get to the end times, die, get somehow resurrected and become soulbound characters? Who knows? I'd love to do that. Take me forever. I'll probably be in my dotage by the time I finished it and I won't remember what Warhammer is. But that would be interesting. The systems are very different, I have to say. I do like both, and what I particularly like is the sheer level of the quality of the products that Cubicle 7 are putting out right now. So an example of this end times one is a blind mystic across a rogue character on the street sees their arms and whispers, you will be the one to fulfill the architect's plan, but it's not too late to turn back. Abandon this course while you still can. The mystic suddenly looks frightened and runs away. The character is soon approached with several intriguing drop offers, all of which sound lucrative, involving thefts of holy relics. That night they hear about an inexplicable fire that only took the life of one old witch. Oh. And that's it. So that's kind of just really kind of loved that kind of look into how Warhammer should work and what its themes are. I don't think you get that often in. I mean, I suppose other systems are maybe broader, but I just think that's a really nice little 5 pages of insight and background into how Warhammer should work. And I should say, in the companion guide to the Enemy of Shadows, they've got some other bits and pieces from some of the older writers who did the original stuff, writing about how it came about, and that's really interesting too. So there's lots of things in here just to help you run a little bit more smoothly on your GMing, and a few extra ideas. There's an interesting bit on what to do between adventures and whether your career is really your career, which I always kind of, again, it was playing with teenagers and it depends on how you want to role play it, but the career was very much a means to getting the best stats when I was younger, and quite often you weren't really the thing at all. And how do you do that when you're meant to be adventuring? How do you be a scribe if actually you're off whacking dragons or whatever? It's a bit difficult. I mean, do you come back and have to sit down and write a few things? I don't know, but that's in here about your sort of motivation for your career, which is quite interesting. And there's a whole lot of motivations and the various things about how your doom might work, which is another interesting mechanic in the game. So I really like that. So it's a really nice little book. I haven't got the retail price, so I'll find it out and flash it up down below or here. But that's a really nice product to say that this is really good, and this is a really interesting read for those who want to take their game to the next level and really kind of dig into under the skin of the old world. One other little thing is that they've also teamed up with All Rolled Up. I haven't even opened this yet, but to make a little dice tray. Dice trays are one of those things that you don't need, but are really kind of lovely. And I should say, Age of Sigmar do actually have their own dice trays, should you want it. And do let us know if you do, because you can get a link for that. What we've got here, so these are pretty standard, I think, but you've got some poppery bits, and you pop the corners like so. Like the Ages of Sigmar. This is the original Ages of Sigmar one right here. Look. Anyway, you pop the corners like so, and you've got a lovely, all rolled up Games Workshop Cubicle 7 Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay dice tray, and it's a lovely little neoprene job, and it's quite nice. I do like that. And if it rains while you're on it, you can wear it as a hat as well. So yeah, dice trays, gotta love them. One of those things that you suddenly find that you've got lots of because you just see one, just think, oh, that's quite nice. And the creature's pretty creepy. I would have liked to have this cityscape in there, but that's my own personal opinion. But it's a nice trade, good quality neoprene. So an extra little thing if you want to really take your go all in on Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. But definitely check out the Games Master screen. Do let me know how you're getting on with WFRP if you've played it. I still haven't actually played any games. Getting people around the table is proving very difficult, obviously, especially at the moment. But I am loving reading the stuff and kind of pretending that I'm 15 again and playing Death on the Rawk, which is probably one of the happiest times of my life. And I say that it's my 15th wedding anniversary today. But so until next time, do enjoy your role playing or whatever it is you're doing, and hopefully Pete and I will be able to meet up again and play some games, physical games, and hopefully we'll get a game of Soulbound or WFRP somewhere along the line. Who knows? But do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video if you haven't already, and we'll try and do as much WFRP and Soulbound content as we can. So keep well, and we'll see you soon. Bye.